In the autumn of 2023, Emily Harper, a 29-year-old freelance journalist, arrived in the small town of Cold Hollow, Vermont, chasing a story. The town was a speck on the map, nestled in a valley where dense forests swallowed the sunlight, leaving the air perpetually damp and heavy. She'd heard whispers on an online forum about the old Granville House, a crumbling Victorian manor on the outskirts of town, abandoned since the 1940s. Locals claimed it was haunted, not by ghosts in the traditional sense, but by something they called the Lantern Man. The story intrigued Emily, not because she believed in the supernatural, but because she sensed a human angle, a tragedy buried in the town's history that could make for a compelling feature. Emily checked into a faded motel on Cold Hollow's main street, where the clerk, a wiry man named Tom with a nervous tick, handed her a key and a warning. "Don't go up to Granville House after dark," he said, his eyes darting to the window. "Folks say the light moves on its own." Emily pressed him for details, but he clammed up, muttering about bad feelings and things that don't sit right. She jotted it down in her notebook. Her curiosity piqued. The next morning, armed with a camera, a voice recorder, and a thermos of coffee, Emily drove her rented sedan up the winding dirt road to Granville House. The manor loomed at the end of an overgrown path, its gabled roof sagging like a tired spine. Ivy choked the walls, and the windows, those that weren't boarded, stared out like empty sockets. The air was still, save for the occasional rustle of leaves, though Emily couldn't feel a breeze. She stepped onto the porch, the boards groaning under her weight, and noticed a faint smell, like damp earth mixed with something metallic. Inside, the house was a mausoleum of dust and decay. Faded wallpaper peeled in strips, revealing water-stained plaster. Furniture lay scattered, chairs overturned, a cracked mirror leaning against the wall. Emily's boots echoed on the hardwood as she explored the ground floor, her camera flashing in the dim light. In the parlor, she found an old lantern on a side table, its glass smudged but intact, a wick still coiled inside. It struck her as odd. Everything else in the house was ravaged by time, but the lantern looked almost cared for. She recorded her observations, her voice steady but hushed, as if speaking too loudly might disturb something. "The house feels watchful," she said into the recorder, then laughed at herself. She wasn't here to chase ghost stories. Digging through public records at the town hall later that day, she learned the house had belonged to Ezekiel Granville, a reclusive widower who vanished in 1947. Rumors swirled that he'd been a hermit, obsessed with lantern making, and that his disappearance followed a string of unexplained fires in the woods. The townsfolk avoided the house after that, claiming they saw a flickering light moving through the trees at night. That evening, back at the motel, Emily couldn't shake the image of the lantern. She scrolled through her photos, pausing on one she didn't remember taking. The lantern, glowing faintly in the dark parlor. The timestamp read 2:17 p.m. when she'd been inside, but the room had been lit only by her camera flash. A chill ran through her. A glitch, she told herself. The camera was old, prone to quirks. Still, she uploaded the photo to her laptop and zoomed in. The light wasn't a reflection. It seemed to emanate from the lantern itself, a sickly yellow glow that blurred at the edges. Against her better judgment, Emily returned to Granville House the next night. She told herself it was for the story, to debunk the myths, but a part of her felt drawn, like a moth to a flame. She brought a flashlight, her recorder, and a pocket knife, just in case. The woods were silent as she approached, the air thick with the scent of pine and decay. The house looked different at night, its silhouette jagged against the moonless sky. Her flashlight beam trembled as she stepped inside. The lantern was still there, on the same table, but now it was lit. The flame flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to ride on the walls. Emily's breath caught. She hadn't touched it yesterday, and no one else had been here. She approached, her boots crunching on grit, and noticed the flame didn't flicker like a normal fire. It pulsed, slow and deliberate, like a heartbeat. She reached out, her hand hovering over the glass, and felt no heat, only a cold that seeped into her bones. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The flame flared, and the shadows on the walls stretched into shapes, long, thin figures with no faces. Emily stumbled back, her flashlight falling to the floor. The beam spun, illuminating the room in frantic arcs, and she saw it. A figure in the corner, tall and gaunt, holding another lantern. Its light was the same, sickly yellow, and though she couldn't see its face, she felt its gaze, heavy and unyielding. She ran, her heart pounding, the recorder slipping from her hand. The air grew thicker, the metallic smell stronger, as if the house itself were breathing. Outside, she tripped on a root, sprawling into the dirt. When she looked back, the house was dark again, the lantern's glow gone. But in the woods, a light flickered, moving slowly between the trees, closer, then farther, then closer again. Emily drove back to the motel, her hands shaking on the wheel. She didn't sleep that night, replaying the moment in her mind. The next morning, she packed her things and left Cold Hollow without looking back. Her editor never got the story. She couldn't bring herself to write it. But she kept the photo of the glowing lantern, hidden in a folder she never opened. A year later, a hiker found a voice recorder in the woods near Granville House. The last recording was Emily's, timestamp 9:43 p.m., October 12, 2023. Her voice was frantic, barely audible over a low, rhythmic hum, like a pulse. "It's following me," she whispered. "The light, it's not a lantern, it's him." The recording cut off with a sharp crack, like wood splitting. No one in Cold Hollow would touch the recorder. They left it where it was, and the woods grew quiet again, save for the occasional flicker of yellow light in the trees.